In this new alternative version of Mississippi Blues, I'm going to try to do some variations on the classic Delta Blues turnaround cadence. So as we go through each cadence, we'll kind of take a look at those. So they're very interesting. I was mindful of one of my guitar heroes, George Van Epps, who was a great guitarist who played amazing multi-voiced fugue-like renditions of songs. I remember reading an article, an interview with him in Guitar Player magazine about 30 years ago. I was riding a bus in Minneapolis, and he was speaking about an interesting state you arrive at when you kind of learn all these different voicings and chords and lines, and at some point they just start to kind of have a life of their own and live independently when you play. I think that's an amazing kind of a guitarist nirvana to arrive at, to play orchestrally and with polyphony in a spontaneous way that isn't just arranged out. This is an arrangement. Although there are spots where there are breaks that can have variations. And in fact, my explanation will probably vary in places from the original performance you just heard. But let's just see what we're doing here. We're going to play a series. The intro is going to be, in the original the intro was played on mainly on the second and first string. We're going to play it here on the second, third, and fourth strings. Okay? It's still got that D, T, 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 T. Still got that 6/8 against 4 feel. And we're doing lots of double stops in this piece. Start out with a little shape of an A7. And then we're going to take this. That's your third finger making that double stop. first part. Following on from that, now we're going to have an ascending bass line. So this is going to move up. So we're going to start on C, D sharp with open E in the top string. Then we're going to have a bar. We're hitting 5th, 3rd, and 1st. And we're going to keep hitting that upper A on the 5th fret, 1st string. So this is going to turn into ascending sixes. So we got pull-offs. I'll take the whole segment. Okay. So doing a lot of work here is being done by your first finger, keeping a kind of a partial bar. So this is like an A minor over G. So we start with this descending. Okay, so there's a this is a G7. It's all played on the bottom 4 strings. This is a D7. We're starting with F sharp, D, A on the 2nd fret. So here we have an A7. So we got 3rd, 3rd, 4th, all on the 1st and 2nd string. Here, as in the first version of I did of Mississippi Blues, the bass line is going from 5th to 6th string. So we got those are thirds on the 2nd and 3rd string going up chromatically. Okay. So this is a so G sharp diminish, G sharp diminish. Once again, it's all built around the bar you're making with your first finger. Now we're going to find this motif on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th strings that was up. We were originally playing on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd string. We're going to go okay. plus we're going to have contrary motion. The bass line on the fifth string is going to go down. The melodies on the second string is going to go up. You see that? Starts out third finger, fourth string, third finger, fifth string, 10th fret, open E, first string. Okay? To recap, we're going. Then we're going to have a line that on the fifth string is going to descend chromatically, and on the second string is going to ascend chromatically. We start with our third finger, fifth string, 10th fret, and the E is played on the open first string. So we watch how I switch my fingers on the descending line. And then I wind up with a barred at the 7th fret of a A7 shape. Throughout these pieces, when you go through the tab, I'm always working out of chord shapes, so I'm often placing the chord shape and then playing the notes. And think that way when you read through the tab. Continuing down, again we switch to the sixth string, third finger, 10th fret, open E again. Here's another chord. Now this is a C7 shape with the fifth in the bass, so I'm playing, keeping my fourth finger anchored. Okay? Let's play that whole phrase again. We're continuing on now to a B7 chord. F. All right. Have to do that again. Let's see what's going on there. We got an F, a B flat 7, so it's like an F7 sharp 9. Notice how we have to switch our fingers here. We're going to go to a watch I'm now we come to that cadence again, remember? That's the old delta cadence, and here's how we're going to do it, an alternative version. Okay, so that's all partial bar. Starts on the 5th fret. It's framing out a kind of a partial A7 chord. A flat, G, 13, then an A, not a 7th, then an F7. Okay, now let's go take the whole recap the whole phrase. We go to our next phrase. We're going back to another, back at the top of the next 12 bars. We have this same motif of descending on the 5th string, ascending on the 2nd. So we're going to go 3rd finger, 4th finger on the 5th and 2nd strings on the 10th fret. Then a bar. We're going to catch the 3rd, 1st string on the 7th fret. Slide the bar up so we're catching 5th, 3rd, 1st string on the 8th fret. This is like a A7 kind of a shape. One more time. This is also contrary motion. Okay, moving on. Oh, let's move that on again. Now this is an interesting passage. We start out by playing okay, 3rd finger, 4th finger, 2nd finger on 6, 5, 4 strings. Now, as I do this, watch what I have here as I move through this series of chords. It's interesting to point out is how I try to find from consecutive chords fingers that will be in common. So I always have a kind of an anchor from chord to chord. This gives a nice sustain to the sound of the guitar and helps me from getting confused. When I'm playing through guitar things, I try as much as possible to avoid actually picking my hand up and putting it back down. That's really going off into the ozone and making those kind of leaps. They're unavoidable in guitar playing, but watch how I try to guide myself through this passage. I start off with the 4th finger in this case is common to both those chords. See the 4th finger? Okay, here the 2nd and 3rd finger are the common fingers to the 2 chords. Then it's the 3rd finger that's common. Then it's the 4th finger. Then we make a jump. Okay, let's try that again. Through this passage, let's look at the fingers that are going to be common to consecutive chords. We start out, it's the 4th finger here. Then it's the 2nd and 3rd finger. That's common. Then it's the 3rd finger. Then it's the 4th finger. Then it's the 4th finger. Then it's the 3rd finger. Then it's the 2nd finger. Then we have a hop. We're completely hopping here, but it's easy hop to make because we're going to that old familiar A7 shape. So we have come back up to this this theme. Now we're back to playing it on the at the 5th fret instead of up here at the 12th. All right, that's a little variation. It's double stops again. We're working on the 4th, 3rd, 2nd string, starting at the 5th fret with an A shape. That's simple. A double stop bar there, keeping your A shape fretted as you do that. Then sliding your 3rd finger up. I love that. Okay, let's see how that works with the bass line. Okay. Okay. So this sets us up for this we make a little double stop at the 7th fret with our 1st finger, because we're going to go, and then we're going to play this double this A. We're slide it up and hit the A on the 5th string, 12th fret. All right. And then this is a beautiful little lick. You hit the open E, and then you make a 3rd, 1st finger on the 12th fret, 1st string, 2nd finger on the 13th fret, 2nd string. So to break this down slowly, it is, okay, you hit open E, the 3rd, trill, so it's a hammer on, pull off. Hit the 2nd string and then pull off with your 1st finger from the 1st string, 12th fret. Okay? Now here again, our 2nd finger is staying kind of anchored to that whole passage. That's our little pivot that keeps our hand as we work through these different licks. All right? Let's recap from here. Notice that here I'm not playing a constant bass line on all 4 beats. I'm just hitting half tones on the 1 and the 3. Then we go to bar at the 8th fret, pull off, so we'll carry that through. Lots of the chord shapes I use come out of the old Freddie Green lexicon of chord shapes. And they are very often 3-note chords. You play on the 6th, 4th, and 3rd strings. Here's a good example. This is an F to an E, but I'm putting the 5th in the bass. All right? That would take you to A. So let's see, again, recap that. So then we walk the line up. And that sets us up to start another 12 bars. And we're going to do a variation on the boogie woogie line. This is also an example of 6/8 against 4/4. Okay. We have an A7 shape, a part of the A7 shape on the top. All right. The bass line is playing all right. So it's getting 1, 2. Let's say it's going 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. All right. Your first and second fingers are in your right hand are playing this 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, da da da. It's a triplet pattern. I should be saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but I can't play and talk that much at the same time. So let's see how that all goes together. Now here, notice the fourth finger is the finger that's staying in common to all of this. Everything else has to kind of switch around it. Keep going. All right. Then we slide up. Now, this is a little tricky. This is kind of violates some rules of guitar physics, but you're going to reach your second finger up above the level of your third finger to grab this note. All right. The open D starts it on the fourth string. Then we come down. We have to make a jump. Third finger grabs B on the first string, 7th fret. So there's a little cross picking. We're going to go G, open G, fret the F on the 5th string, E, then open D. Okay, now let's take it from up here and see how we do that again. We go back to our original line. Then we're going to slide up, the third and fourth finger anchoring. So that's a descending line, and once again you're going to have to do that reach. So for a reference, let's compare this newer kind of boogie woogie part to a part from the earlier version that was in the version of Mississippi Blues from the Roots, Rags, and Blues course on True Fire. We have this 7th shape, so it's kind of like an A7 shape of A, but up starting at the 12th fret. We have the reach. general, it's more static. You're holding one upper shape to play the triplet figure, and then you're moving the bass line around that. This version, the new version, there's a lot more motion going on. So let's see, try that again. So we're going from A7 to E7. All right. Going up here. A big component of this also is the fact that you're kind of, you know, chords either usually, if you take the note that names the chord, in this case it's the note that's defining this chord. In this case it's an E7, right? We might move, you can make a chord depending on the note that names the chord. Let's take E here on the 5th string, 7th fret. We can build an E this way, moving this way above the note, or we can build it this way. Okay? So in this case, most of the chord shape, which I know it's all a bunch of lines, but I'm seeing a chord underneath all of it as I move through it, are going to be first finger bar, the chords all in this zone underneath this note, so to speak, from my perspective here looking down at the fretboard. So another aspect of this boogie woogie pattern is that it's moved and transposed up here to the middle of the fretboard, the upper part of the fretboard between the 7th and 14th frets. You play in the key of E. It may seem more familiar if you go back to your old that kind of is essentially what we're taking, but we're playing it up here in this zone and transposing it. Understanding that might help you if you're having difficulty getting a handle on this particular part. It may help you visualize, oh, this is what's going on. We're kind of transposing this classic kind of blues boogie line up here. And if you're patient and put in some wood shedding, you'll be able to play this. It may seem daunting initially, but it's a totally playable passage. This brings us up to a midpoint in the piece. There is a series of breaks. This is also a part in the piece where it is always slightly improvisatory. All the pieces I do, to greater or lesser degrees, have set arranged parts, but I always have segments also that can have variations and a little bit of improvisation to them. So we got... So we're kind of not going to follow the 12-bar blues pattern for this series of breaks. The first one starts with this A7 shape. It's like a D7 shape of A7 chromatically. For example, this is the kind of like a okay. Then we're going to take the A7 shape that's here on the fifth fret, fourth string, sixth fret, third string. Okay? So let me play it again. Alright. Remember what we were talking about earlier in the course about G shape, E shape, D shape, etc., chord shape, and the corresponding blues licks. So this is like a G shape of A. Okay, so starting again from here. Do that one more time. Then we're going to climb back up with a series of intervals of a tenth played on the second fret, fifth string, third fret, second string. Alright, so we got so now we have kind of gone down and come back in reverse. Also notice as I go through this passage, I periodically will hit that A string to give myself a little point of a bass tone to help the time and sense of the whole phrase hang together. The main motion of the rhythm is being played now with the melody voices and the chordal melody voices instead of playing a bass line. I'm just going to every now and then hit that little A and watch how that works. So when we get back up to this part, we do a climb from this position of A on the fifth fret, chromatically up, and then your fourth finger is going to slide up. All right. So you got so it's a quick slur, third, second, first finger. And then slide your first finger down and pluck that note. And then a bend up. We make a little jump, first finger to 10th fret, second string. And then another quick 3-note pull off, third, second, first finger on the first string. And that's a push. You're double stopping first finger on first and second strings on the 10th fret. Okay? Let's put that all together. Now that part I kind of play pretty much the same way every time, but it sets me up for this part that is another variation on the triplets against 4 we've been talking about. So we got okay, now let's look how that's going. Your 4th finger is going to be a big anchor through a lot of this passage. This is essentially, see here, is a D7 chord. And we're just using the 2nd finger and 4th finger, 3rd string, 11th fret, 2nd string, 13th fret. And then this E is, it's beautiful. This is like the 9th of D. So this is going to be so your 2nd and 3rd finger of your right hand are going to be playing together the 1st and 2nd strings. And then your 1st finger of your right hand is going to be hitting the 3rd. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you might want to work on that to start with if you're not used to this. Then we have our bass line. So you're hitting open D on the 4th string, and then you're hitting 5th string, 11th fret, 5th string, 12th fret. And then you put it all together, it's then we're going to go up to an A7 essentially. Once again, it's just these 2 notes. Then we're hitting 5th string open, 6th string 11th, 6th string 12th with our 1st finger. Now we're to an E7, basically an E7 chord. Do that again. Once again, we have this principle at work here. Remember I was telling you before about the how you could use just 2 notes to imply a 7th chord as we played a blues progression like I saw Herb Ellis doing all those years ago. Okay, well, it's the same notes, just up an octave. Alright, and now we turn it into a nice now we're going to play the cadence again. We're going to play it up here. The 3rd finger here is going to kind of be the consistent finger through this passage of chords. The chords are basically all going to be on the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd string. We're going to hit the open 1st string as a kind of a pedal tone. Okay? So that sets us up for the next 12-bar blues phrase, which is kind of a classic jazz feeling of blues, something like I heard Fats Waller play once. Let's try that again. As in an earlier passage where we're using these Freddie Green chords, you'll see most of the action is on the 6th, 4th, and 3rd strings. Let's play that one more time and move to the next phrase. Okay, so once again, that is that G shape of A playing. Okay, and I'm also kind of playing a pulse with my thumb. I'll do that a little slower. I seem to play most of that with my 4th finger. Now we'll go to the next phrase. That's a double stop, 1st finger, 2nd fret, then a double stop, 3rd finger, 4th fret of the 4th and 3rd strings. So that's another kind of jazzy, classic Harlem stride sounding chords, bluesy chords. And then once again, the same principle. Notice the 4th finger, the 3rd finger, and 2nd finger where they're linking from chord to chord. That's a hop. Do that one more. I'll do this again. Notice how the 3rd, 4th, 2nd fingers, how they link from chord to chord. I also sometimes like to hit this little pulse. Bop, bop, bop. So this part here is a bit of wild eclecticism because I'm going from these Harlem stride sounding chords to kind of a real delta sound that's very percussive. Where I'm kind of striking down with my 1st finger. So I have an A shape like a partial bar. That's the bass line. When I hit that C, I pull it down to choke it slightly. Try that again. And you can slap the guitar or hit it however you like to do it. Okay, so we got. So now we're we go back to some of those more classic jazz blues chords. So we have a B minor, just a bar. Then we're going to have this line. So that's the top of that line is first finger, second string, 8th fret, hammer on to the second string, 10th fret. And then we have, so let's do that part just to begin with. Let's do that part just to begin with. Now we add, we're going to hit the open E string against that as we play it. Okay, and then finally, so we're going to play this D, 3rd finger, 6th string, 10th fret. Okay. Then the turnaround. All right, now that sets us up for another 12 bars and a new variation. A lot of these variations, I'm almost trying to like mimic a piano in the way I'm approaching the guitar. So I'm taking the idea that is Willie Brown's brilliant idea, which uses this combination of open strings and fretted notes to create this beautiful cross-picking boogie-woogie bass line up here around the 7th fret. And now I'm going to add a phrase that's played with sixes, the interval of a 6. So it's going to be played out on the 3rd and 1st string or the 4th and 2nd string. So that's the top. So the pull-off is really the 4th finger. The 3rd finger is going to kind of stay anchored down to an A7 shape. So it's either going to go to an A or a D9, or D7 rather. All right, so let's see how that works with the bass line. All right, so let's see how that goes a little slower. Notice when I go to my next phrase, I'm going to hit that E. So it's going to go. So you have a partial bar creating this piece of a D7 chord. Gets a little complicated because you have to cultivate this ability to do this reach with your 4th finger. These kind of shapes you're going to find if you're grabbing up on your guitar, they're going to be almost impossible to do. You've got to pull your hand down So your hand will have a look to it like an arch, like this, as opposed to being like this. This is kind of cramped, you see? You want it to have this arch. This arch will allow you to make these kind of reaches a lot better. So look at your hand if you're feeling like some of these things are hard for you to express, and that could be the root of the problem. I will use my thumb to make chords often, but I will default back to this arched shape when I'm not doing that. You want to avoid always playing the guitar like this, because that's going to cramp up everything and make some things just impossible to reach. So look for that in your playing if you're seeing problems, and see if you can cultivate more of an arch. This is more of like, frankly, a classical guitar kind of angle. And another thing I do is, you'll notice I have my guitar at an angle. I use a guitar strap, and rather than like a classical guitarist might have a footstool, or a flamenco guitarist would prop his guitar kind of up on his right leg lap, so to speak. I use my guitar strap to kind of create an angle that makes this more feasible to have this kind of posture in my hand. If you have your guitar horizontal to you and low, you're going to find you're grabbing it more, and for some kinds of guitar, well, that's just fine. But if we're trying to play these multiple lines together at the same time, and big reaches, this is, I believe, it's going to be a better way to approach it. So this chord progression, let's look at the nuts and bolts of the chord progression before we go any further. We're in A, D, back to A, back to D. Then we're going to do a substitution and go to G. A, G flat, B, D. I learned that progression working with brother Jack McDuff, great B3 jazz organ player, and he taught me a lot about playing blues. Once we were rehearsing Tobacco Road, and my solo came up, and I started playing, and he stopped me and looked at me dead straight in the eyes, and he said, "Boy, don't be putting ketchup on my ice cream." Now, what he was saying was, he wanted me to play. He didn't need a lot of George Benson jazzy stuff. He wanted to hear the blues. So it was a good lesson in using the right kind of sensibility for the right kind of situation. So I think of Jack McDuff when I play this progression, because this was kind of a progression he liked to use, chord substitutions in blues, which he was great blues player, but he played it like jazz. So now let's see how this pattern is going to be replicated through the chords of A, D, G, A, G flat, B, D. Let's do that again, slower. Start off playing the melody in thirds. Notice how my fourth finger is going to kind of lead me down to this G. It's a G9 chord. See that? Once again, the fourth finger is the anchor here. We have a new turnaround. This is going to use a descending shape once again against a pedal tone in the top voicings. See that? The fourth finger stays in place. One more time. This is just like a piece of an A chord. I'm just using these three notes on 5th, 4th, and 3rd string, and then hitting the open E, open B. Okay? And that brings us back to our last 12 bars. Now we have some new material. So here's the setup. That's third finger catches that note on the 2nd string, 10th fret. Then a slur by your 4th finger, starting on 13th fret, 2nd string. So I'll play that whole phrase one more time slower. I'm doing a harmonization of the basic original phrase. Alright, so here I'm going to move the melody up here onto the, a lot of it's going to be on the 2nd string, and we're going to put a whole series of chords under it. And once again, the principle of taking the melody and building downward to find a chord color that would be something quite different than if I thought, oh, this is A, so let me find my A. I'm going to start from this note and build chords to see what I can come up with. That's a really impressionist sounding chord because I have this open G, so I'm fretting a 6th string, 8th fret, 4th string, 8th fret, open G, and then 2nd string, 7th fret. That's a B13. here comes the grand descent. See how that works? All right. We start out with this shapes that are like A sharp 13 with fifth in the bass. Then we're here into this shape, which is going to go the rest of the way down. It's like a first finger, second finger, third finger on 6, 4, third string. Basically a seventh chord shape. From this chord, which is a C13, it's all going to be chromatic. So we have one skip of a whole step, but the rest is from here on, it's totally chromatic. So this last phrase takes us down to a little cadenza to finish the song. All right, I'll do that again. There's an E augmented. We finish it with that classic phrase. This time we're playing it up here. This is all played on the fourth, second, and first string. The last part is just the upper part of a sharp 9 chord to an A 9. So it's now I'm going to take you through the whole piece and try to play it slowly and just stop and start just to give you an idea how it all hangs together. Now we're going to do a breakdown and study of a piece I've had in my repertoire for many years. It's called the Oriental Blues, and it was written by U.B. Blake, the great ragtime piano player who is more famous for songs like I'm Just Wild About Harry and Memories of You. It's called a blues, but it has a very arcane, exotic structure that's almost stream of consciousness. And it has obviously lots of oriental motifs. It's a song he performed with Noble Sissel, and so there's a real crazy set of lyrics that go with it. Fortunately for you, I won't be singing those today. But I encourage you to Google or find the original Noble Sissel and U.B. Blake performance. What is interesting about this piece to me is, in the way I perform it, is I've opened up in the middle section a kind of a fantasia that was kind of a touchstone for a concept I've evolved that blends jazz and blues and Middle Eastern elements all together. I remember a quote from Miles Davis from many years ago where he said that flamenco was just gypsy jazz. And indeed, there are many traditions in the world that have what we think of as jazz or jamming. And I try to see certain components everywhere I look that I can use and cannibalize myself into my own kind of vocabulary. This is a beautiful piece. It's not really ragtime and it's not really blues. It's really a unique kind of a piece. This is an interesting tune. It's not really a blues. It's not really ragtime. It's a kind of a unique piece. And it's one of my favorite pieces. It's an A minor. It starts with a descending series of bar chords. It's got this, once again, this kind of Latin-tinged habanera bayal pattern that we have used in some of our other songs in this course. The thumb is kind of beating out the rhythm. And then we're playing the melody mostly on the upper first string at the beginning, and kind of make an arpeggio of the chord. There's that sharp 9 7 chord with fifth in the bass, like a B 7 sharp 9. We're playing the sixth string. Let's take that together. Let's take that all together. Watch this descending pattern. We have an A minor. You put the G in the bass. Now here I do something completely wrong, and I can't not do it right. You may want to do this differently, but I'm playing this G with my fourth finger. Then I move my fourth finger quickly to the second string, and that's totally wrong. That's really crazy. If that's hard, you could make your A minor 7. Or rather A minor to C, and then you don't have to do that big skip. This song is full of all kinds of quote-unquote oriental motifs. That's one of them. That's a little bit of that A blues lick. All right. Let's play that A minor blues lick and then a climbing chromatic line of octaves. Starts on E to a G chord. Another aspect of this song is there's not any real chord progression that happens over and over and over again. It's really a stream of consciousness kind of a song that goes all over the place. That's a G, A diminish, G7. So the second time I play that it's a little syncopated on the beat. 1. There's a C diminished. So let's take that again. Okay, so once again we are playing these Freddie Green type 3-note chords on the 6th, 4th, and 3rd string. All right, now let's play it very slowly up to that point while we have in the song. Then we're going to run up to the 12th fret and do a cadenza. That's that old that he jazz Frege mode. We're going to play an E minor blues scale down. Do that one time. Those are all 6s. Now we're going to have an interesting technique where I'm going to take my thumb and trill it up and down on the 6th string really fast. While I play this ascending line, it starts out with a double stop on the 2nd fret of the 4th and 3rd string. All right. If that's hard to do, you can just go to begin with. Then we go to our next section. We start here, and the 3rd finger is going to kind of be an anchor through the first part of the passage. We go down to a so it's like a that all again very slowly. The next part is an A minor chord, partial bar on the 5th fret. We're basically going A minor, B, F, E. Now here's an interesting trick I'm doing here that I haven't done any songs previously. I'm making a bar that goes from 8th fret, 5th string, but then I'm also grabbing 7th fret, 1st string. So it's a kind of a bar that goes like this. All right, I use this often when I have like a sharp 11 or flat 5 chord. So I have my F7. So this is really an F7 flat 5 kind of sound. Then I'm got this shape, and then I'm grabbing this melody line with my 4th finger. That's a little unusual, but very, very doable. So I'm already barred here when I make my B7. Then I just kind of pivot my 1st finger to F here on the 5th string. Now we're going to have a series of chords with a pedal tone of an open E string on the top. It's chromatic, and it's basically like an F7 shape. 6th string, 4th string, 3rd string. Then a descending pattern that is also built on the 6, 4, 3rd string. I'll do it one more time very slow. Now the next section. Okay, so we have this phrase. It's going to land up here. We're going to go up and jump up here. So the 1st finger is going to be the thing you have in common. These are tenths that we're playing on the 10th fret, 6th and 3rd string. Tenths again, starting on the 2nd fret. this looks like total finger position heresy. It may be, but I've done this way for so long, and I think when I want to make this glissando with 3 notes, it just feels like these 2 fingers on a steel string guitar, that's what I need to make that happen. Bear in mind also, like I say, sometimes I have very, what a classical guitarist would say are really bad postures, but they are very good sounding positions for what I want to get. But I tend to always default back to this natural posture of my hand. That's the important point. I think it's fine to do things like that if it works. Whatever sounds good is good to do, but try to default back to a good hand posture in between those things so you don't keep your hand all cramped up. So what's going on here is I'm hitting a backbeat with my thumb, which is a technique sometimes it gives a nice propulsion, syncopation to some pieces, and sometimes it can also help solve the problem how to just make a fingerstyle piece work. So we're going to climb up with tenths. Okay. Then we're going to be playing a diminished chord. This is tricky because this is a C chord with the 5th in the bass, so you're fretting G on 6th string, 3rd fret. So I'm going to go this E flat to E. As I move up chromatically on the 6th string, I'm going to switch fingers for that note because I play it twice. See that? Okay, so once again I'm going to be doing this cross bridge where I'm fretting B flat on the 6th string, 6th fret, and E on the 2nd string, 5th fret. It's kind of a diminished chord. So you see that bar shape? So keep that bar in place just for this note because I'm going to go to a G7. One more time. So I'm using again this Oriental scale. That has that Hungarian minor sound, like an A Hungarian minor. So here we start again. Then I go to a D minor. Back to A. E. So let's try that again. So the progression is A minor, D minor, A minor, F sharp diminish, E. So let's try to see how that goes again. Notice I always kind of do this arpeggio of this A minor bluesy scale. And I'm going to climb up chromatically with sixes on the fourth and second string. Notice also I'm doing backbeats here when I start this phrase. I'm also kind of resting my palm on my hand to mute that A slightly that I'm hitting as a backbeat bass. Etc. So let's go back to this ascending. It's going to descend. So the next segment we're going to use so this is a phrase that's similar to what we do in Mississippi blues, but we're in G now. So we take this phrase in G, we transpose it up to the 8th fret. Then we're going to transpose it up to the 13th fret. And then we're going to do this quote from Chopin. Do that again. We do this quote from Chopin. We're going to do a descending. Whereas basically it's a half diminished chord, and the shape's going to be at a certain point, once again, chromatic against the pedal tone. That brings us back to our original theme of Oriental Blues. So now I will recapitulate a very slow version. As I said, especially in the middle section, it has a certain roadmap, but there's a room for a lot of variation, and so each time it's a little bit different. And that's a quality of a lot of the pieces I play. I have a combination of arrangement and improvisation. So here is Oriental Blues. Now I'm going to do a rendition of a tune, another klezmer tune by the great king of the klezmer clarinet, Naftul Brandwein. Naftul Brandwein came from Galicia, which is a region that was bordered by Poland on the north, Russia to the east, Hungary, Austria to the west, and the Carpathian Mountains of Romania to the south. As a young man, Naftul Brandwein played Jewish music, of course. His father was a famous Hasidic rabbi. He also played with Romanian gypsies. This song in particular has a strong gypsy flavor, and when Naftul recorded it, he called it "Oh Daddy, That's Good." Maybe that's a reflection of the culture of the early 1920s during Prohibition, when he was active as a musician. It's said that Naftul Brandwein was very unreliable because he drank a lot, but he was always the first band that Murder Incorporated would call if they wanted to have a party. When we get into this tune, you'll see that it has a lot of different elements that are part of the process of the eclectic components I have used to put it together. There's gypsy scales, blues licks. I also use a Brazilian rhythm pattern, and I finish it with an out chorus of some bossa nova samba chords. This tune is called "Oh Daddy, That's Good." It was recorded in the early 1920s by Naftula Brandwine, the king of the klezmer clarinet. Naftula came from a small region in Eastern Europe called Galicia, which was just north of the Carpathian Mountains of Romania and south of Poland. He, as a young man, played Hasidic Jewish music, but also he played with Roma gypsies. That may have influenced this song because musicologists have pointed out that it's actually also played as a Romanian gypsy tune. He recorded it and called it "Oh Daddy, That's Good." The maiden scale here is a D minor scale that is known as Hungarian minor. We've also encountered a scale known as a Hava Rabba, or the Frege mode, that goes with D major. You might recognize this is like the Hava Nagila scale. Now we go to D minor, and we get a companion scale. Known as Hungarian minor. So we'll start with the song. So what's going on there? We start with a pickup line. We're going to use our thumb now to play a descending bass line. The thumb's going to hit the notes on the 6th string, and we're going to hit notes on the 6th string and then go up and catch a D on the 4th string. That's some hairy picking because you got a combination of fretting the melody and catching the open strings for the melody to make it work together. So let's try that very slowly. The third note in that series is an open E string on the 1st string. We start out fretting the melody line 6th fret, 3rd string, 7th fret, 3rd string, then open 1st string, then back to 2nd string, 6th fret, then 2nd string, 8th fret. So wherever E occurs, we're going to grab it as an open string. And maybe that's just a general rule of thumb here, that if there is an open string that's available, we may opt to pick it as open string out of sequence. I like to do that because it kind of gives a certain, once again, a kind of harp-like quality to the melody. And in some cases makes it easier to get the whole melody out in rapid succession. So let's try that again, starting from here. Right? So we're going to make a jump. The second finger is going to kind of play the note, the melody here on the 3rd string at 7th fret, and then go down and catch it on the 3rd string on the 3rd fret. Then we have that's the melody. And we're going to harmonize it with 4ths and 3rds. We catch the G with our thumb in the bass. Also, the pulse of the bass notes is once again in the Bayal rhythm that we use to play a few bowls Turkish. So we got this. 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2. So it's an 8/8 note pattern. 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2. I'm going to do that one more time, a little bit slower for you. The next section is going to go from A, we're in the key of A, we're going to go down to G. So here, the rhythm is going to go into a kind of a 6/8 feel again. Instead of, it's going to kind of go da 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 da, and then back into the 4/4. Da 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 ba da ta 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 da 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 da. And so that'll be like this. So I have a little counter melody where I'm playing G. So I'm playing G on the sixth fret, 4th string, and also open 3rd string to begin with. And then that note is descending. And then we go to 4/4. When we go back to 4/4, we're back into the syncopated Bayan pattern. An A, partial borrowed 2nd fret, I trilled my 3rd finger, 3rd string from 2nd to 3rd fret. Now sometimes I like to throw in a little variety, so I'll start my parallel note on F sharp and descend. Gives a little dissonance and just a little bit of a little surprise. And that descending line brings me up to a little vamp where I'm just going to comp with the pulse on that D on the 4th string and play a little melody with this Hungarian minor scale. That's all there is to it. And I always end with this little da 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 da, just to give myself or any musicians might be playing with a little cue that we're done with that vamp. The vamp can go as long as you want. Just, I always kind of end it with that. So here we go. Notice how my first finger is kind of a little guide. This technique comes from Middle Eastern styles of playing the long-necked lutes like the bouzouki or the saz. I learned this from a Greek bouzouki player who told me he learned it from a gypsy violinist. That you play in little boxes once again, and your first finger is always your guide for your placement. So that's kind of the style that I'm kind of using here, thinking about when I play this little vamp. All right, so that brings me to the next section, which is played in the interval of a six. So it's a series of sixes. This is just voicing I chose because it has, to me, it's got the G minor in it from the B flat. So it's like a G minor ninth feeling. So we're going from A to G minor 9. See that? So. And then the next part, once again, we're going to play all this in cascading intervals of a six. So we're going to be on the first and third string, or the second and fourth string. We're going to be mainly using our third and fourth finger in combination, or our first and second finger in combination to play the six. And in slow motion, it looks like this. Okay, I'll do that again. Okay, the melody of that is like scale. So then we add 6 below of that melody, and you get. Now there's a little trick I do where I do a kind of a roll of the from the fourth and second string to the third and first string. I don't pick up and put back down, I actually slide them because it's going by so fast. So it's more like a roll than an actual pick up and hammer on. So in a way, I almost don't hit the third string. It's more of a ghost note, but I really hit the first string for sure. Because this goes by fast when you play it in the actual performance. Now after that, we're going to go to a little solo section that's going to be based on this descending bass line of D, C, B, B flat, A flat, G minor. On the top, we're going to go. So I'm playing the bial pattern. And on top, I'm grabbing pieces of melody that are just match the block of where my thumb is. And they're combinations of bluesy and Hungarian minor. I'll do that again. Second time I might go like this. That's kind of bluesy. Then I go to the next section of G. I'm going to play G with my second finger, 3rd fret, 6th string. I'm going to play F with my 3rd finger, 4th fret, 3rd fret, 4th string. And then I'm going to play a melody on top of that. So we're gonna alternate from G7 to an A, keeping the G note as a pedal tone all the time with my second finger. So I got G. This chord is basically an A7 chord, G being the 7th of A in the bass. Once again, it's a pedal tone. So that's the basic harmony of this section. So then to see how it works when I play some melodies over it. I'll do that again. That's climbing a melody line. This is a little hard to see because I've got my second and third finger, you know, planted here to keep these two bass lines going, but I'm going. So it's real like. Now once again, what I have to do here is I have to play a double stop with my first finger on the second fret and using the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd strings, but I have to arch it up so the E first string can ring clear. So that's a little bit of a, you know, that's a little bit of a thing you might have to work on if you're not accustomed to doing double stops that way. So there's an A7, and there's a G on the bass too. Do that again. Okay. So we'll play that again and then take it into the next section. What that is a A7 13 flat 9. the song, and what I'm going to do now is play this descending D, C, B, B flat, etc. progression, but now I'm going to frame it out in some kind of Brazilian style jazz chords. We're going to start with D minor 7, and I'm adding a little melodic twist by using my my fourth finger or open strings to kind of catch little melody figures on these chords as they pass through. So we got that's D minor flat 5. Use my thumb. That's B flat 7 flat 5. That's D7 with the fifth and the bass A. This is a D half diminished, and there's our A7 with G in the bass. Now that little figure at the end comes from a very common thing you will hear in Brazilian samba schools. Try that one more time. Okay, so to recapitulate this, I'll play through the arrangement one more time, very, very slowly. I'm going to show you an arrangement I did of the very old traditional spiritual Wayfaring Stranger. The inspiration for this guitar arrangement was hearing Charlie Hayden sing this with a jazz orchestra. It's featured on a recording he did called Art of the Song, and it's a very haunting piece. I tried to not copy it, but take a cue from the sensibility of the orchestration. As in many of the songs I do, I always try to start with the melody and then build the chord down from the notes to discover interesting harmonies, as opposed to starting with the root tone of a chord and building up. I find that way I'm not locked in to my choices and can discover really, really interesting, different harmonic colors. I think of the melody basically as black and white, and it's like a coloring book in a way. So this beautiful arrangement that Charlie Hayden had on his recording kind of inspired me, and I came up with this Wayfaring Stranger, I don't know, about 6 or 7 years ago. And a lot of the ideas I discovered in arranging that, I used in subsequent pieces I did, like the music I did on my Little Princess Sonic CD and the pieces that are featured in this course from that CD. Now I'll walk through and explain some of these chords and fingerings a little more clearly, because it looks like a kind of a gnarly mashup sometimes with my fat fingers. It starts off with a D sus to D7, then G sus to G7. G minor. This is an odd chord. It's kind of a G7 against an A. Bear in mind now we're in drop D, so all these notes are a whole step higher than normal. This is a B flat major 7. This is a B half diminish. Then D minor, so bar on the 10th fret. Down to C minor 7, bar on the 8th fret. Then we have that B half diminish to B flat major 7. This is an odd flamenco-y chord. So it's kind of like a B minor with the raised, I guess you call it raised third, or flat 4. Now the second part of the melody has this that's just D minor. Now this is pretty. This is basically like a C13 over D. And then we go to, so that's a B flat major 7 to a basically an F, but we have C in the bass played up a whole step. There's our F chord. C to D minor. This is a D chord with C in the bass. So we're actually playing D with its 7th, the interval of the 7th of D, C in the bass. There's our B half diminish to our B flat major 7. Our flamenco chord. But this time around we start to this. This is like a G7. This is chord. This is like a G sharp major 7. I'll do that all again. There it is. It's B flat 7. We add the component of the Travis style picking with that, and you get this. we can have a little improvisation. It's one way to solve the problem of how do you perform solo finger picking guitar and do some improvisation with no bass player. When you have this drop D, you can kind of play in a vamp of just D, and I'm gonna default down here to put my flat of my palm on the bass notes to Chet style to mute them slightly, and then I'm gonna work some scales over the top. I think I'm working basically out of a Dorian scale. It's got a nice modal sound, you know? It kind of echoes the melody. I'm also going to use some of these Lenny Bro chords, these nice jazzy open chords. What guides my my hand when I do this is I kind of can take a melody and kind of flesh it out with kind of a lot on my fourth finger and a lot on my second finger, because these two types of voicings basically are this kind of chord that has a lot of force, it's built out of force, or this chord that's kind of like it uses the double stop of the second finger on the fourth and third strings. Or then the sus shape, which is just a bar. I also use against this D some triad shapes. Now I put that all together, I get something like this. I tossed in a little flat 13 7th chord. Some things, these things just jump out of my unconscious. They have no control over them sometimes. But that's part of when you play jazz or improvise. There are lots of happy accidents. And, you cultivate a mental attitude of letting surprises happen. And if you practice a lot, your technique will carry it through. I remember a famous saying by the jazz guitarist Barney Kessel, which was, you have to practice and practice and practice and practice, but when you go to play, you have to forget it all. One interesting thing about this arrangement is I voiced part of it up here above the 12th fret. Now, one reason I like to do that is I find the second string is a richer, fatter tone than the first string. So I get kind of orchestrally speaking a richer sonority here. Also, that's a little more awkward for figuring how to go, how to hold this this 3-note shape here, to hold this fourth on the underneath this moving melody line. Here it's a little bit awkward. So for a couple of reasons that makes sense to me working here. I have a cutaway guitar, and often like to work up here in this range above the 12th fret and higher, like in the arrangement of A Few Bowls Turkish. You can find some really cool cross-picking devices by placing your melody, and it's in a sense it's just as if you're playing off of the 3rd fret, but you're up here playing off of the 15th. It's an amazing experience to come down to True Fire and do this project. True Fire is an amazing company. It's a family. I have rarely done a recording project that was so intense and yet so gratifying to do. This has a lot to do with the True Fire attitude. I hope you're enjoying this course, and there are lots of different levels, lots of different skill levels. You can find your level in this course, and I hope you feel free to use the material, not to strictly limit yourself to trying to play the piece as a set piece, but as I said earlier, to feel free to pick the elements that work for you. And I also want you to be patient with some of the more technically challenging elements, not be afraid to tackle them, and be ready to spend some time practicing in the woodshed to get there, because I've been playing for 40 plus years, so it didn't all happen overnight. I want you to feel free to contact me anytime you have a question about any of the elements of the course, or if you've got a piece up and you make a tape of it, or in any way that you want to send me feedback. I'd love to hear from you. And if I'm ever playing in your area, I hope you won't fail to introduce yourself at a gig. I'd love to meet you and hear about your experience. It's really an honor and a privilege to be able to share what I do with you and the True Fire community.